Walker had just $10 to cover $1,700 in bills. He had 43 hours before the lights went out. And he had an 11-year-old daughter waiting at home who still believed her dad would bring her something for dinner. The $10 bill in Walker Webb's hand wasn't money anymore. It was a choice: rent or electricity, his daughter's medication or food, Thursday night or Monday morning. He stood on the Clark and Division platform, watching Red Line trains swallow and spit out passengers. People whose biggest decision that evening was probably what to watch on Netflix. That's when he heard it. It wasn't crying, it was something worse. The sound of someone swallowing a scream. He turned. An elderly woman sat crumpled against the subway wall, her walker folded beside her like an SOS flag. She held a piece of paper in shaking hands, reading it again and again, as if repetition might rewrite reality. Her coat had been expensive once, her glasses sat crooked on her nose. Her whole body looked like it was apologizing for taking up space. Every survival instinct Walker had developed over 3 years of single fatherhood screamed the same thing: keep walking, get on the train, take that $10 home. Turn it into something, anything, that would keep his daughter fed one more night. But the way she sat there, so hopeless, like she was trying to disappear in public, made him walk over anyway. 2. You'd think this is one of those stories where a good deed gets rewarded immediately. It's not. What actually happened was so much stranger and so much more devastating that when it finally made sense, it was already too late to walk away. "Ma'am, are you okay?" She looked up, startled. Her eyes were brown and wet, looking weak behind thick glasses. "I'm fine, young man. Thank you for asking." 2. Her voice was cultured, educated, but it cracked around the edges. Walker glanced at the paper in her hands. It was a medical bill. He could see the numbers even from where he stood. "Balance due, $8,340. Is there someone I can call for you?" he asked gently. Her face showed something he didn't expect. "My daughter was supposed to meet me here an hour ago. V had an appointment at the clinic on Sheffield. She was going to drive me home afterward." She gestured vaguely toward the street exit, but she texted, "Something came up at work. I can't come. Do you have cab fare? I can help you get one." "I don't." The woman stopped, her pride visible in the way she straightened her spine. Then, it crumbled. "I spent my last money on the clinic copay. I thought my daughter would be here. I didn't plan for any of this." Walker looked at the $10 bill in his hand and back at the woman. Then at the departure board, showing the next southbound train. The one that would take him home to his daughter, arriving in 4 minutes. He made a choice that felt completely insane. He couldn't just leave her suffering in this cold, miserable station. "Where do you live, Evanston? But I couldn't possibly find a way home." "Come on, we'll get you an Uber." The woman, who introduced herself as Dr. Constance Moreau, tried to protest the entire way up to street level. Shh. Walker ignored her protests the same way he ignored the voice in his head screaming that he was an idiot. He was about to use the last $10 his daughter had to survive on for a total stranger who might even be a scammer. The Uber estimate to Evanston popped up, and he already knew it was too much: $24. More than double what he had. He opened his bank app. Available balance, $4.73. If he used his debit card and the $10 bill, he could barely cover it. Barely. "It's a little more than I expected," Walker said, trying to keep his voice light. "But we'll make it work. Do you have a preferred route, or should I just..." "Young man, Doctor." Moreau's voice was louder now, the shakiness gone. "What's your name?" "Walker Webb." "Walker, I'm going to ask you a question, and I need you to tell me the truth. How much do you have on you? Was that all you had?" Walker opened his mouth to lie, but the look she gave him made the truth come out instead. "Yeah, it was. And you were going to use it for dinner for yourself, right?" "Yes, and Beverly, my daughter. She's 11. Dr. Moreau's eyes filled with tears again. "Then you are not spending it on me. I won't allow that. Absolutely not. I'll figure something out. I'll call my daughter again. Dr. Moreau, when's the last time you ate?" "She froze this morning. A piece of toast." Walker ordered the Uber. The driver, a tired-looking man named Paolo, didn't say much during the ride. Walker sat in front. Dr. Moreau sat in back, staring out the window with an expression Walker couldn't quite read. When they pulled up to her building, a modest apartment complex that had seen better decades, Dr. Moreau turned to Walker. "You remind me of someone," she said quietly. "My late husband. He used to do foolish, beautiful things like this." I'm not sure it was beautiful. Might have just been foolish. No, her voice was certain. It was beautiful. And I'm going to remember it. She got out, unfolded her walker with practiced efficiency, and disappeared into the building without looking back. Paolo turned to Walker. "That'll be $24.80. Locker." Handed over the $10 bill and his debit card, watching his bank balance drop to negative $9.07. The overdraft fee would hit tomorrow. Another $35 he didn't have. Another foolish decision, born from always trying to help the needy when he needed help the most. When he got home to their third-floor walk-up in Pilsen, Beverly was doing homework at the kitchen table. Mrs. Doris from next door sat on the couch, knitting and watching the evening news, with the sound off. "Daddy!" Beverly jumped up, her braids flying. She crashed into him with all the joy she had. "Hey, baby girl, you finish your math. Almost, Mrs. Doris helped me with the hard ones." She looked up at him with eyes exactly like her mother's. The mother who'd walked out when Beverly was 8, deciding that poverty and motherhood were incompatible. "Are we having tacos tonight?" "You said, maybe tacos." Walker felt his heartbeat starting to increase. He'd promised her tacos, including ground beef from the dollar store, tortillas, cheese. Nothing too expensive and fancy, but he'd promised. Needy. Just given away the money to a total stranger who disappeared without a simple thank you. Mrs. Doris saw his face. She stood up, gathering her knitting into a canvas bag covered in cats. "I made too much pork and rice. Enough for a week. You take some home, okay? I don't want it to spoil." "Mrs. Doris, I can't. You take it, or I throw it away. Those are the choices. Which do you prefer?" Her tone left no room for argument. She disappeared into her apartment and returned with 2 containers of food that smelled like heaven. Probably cost her $20 to make, and she was giving it away because his pride couldn't handle accepting charity, but could handle preventing waste. After Beverly was asleep, her stomach full of Mrs. Doris's cooking, Walker sat at the kitchen table with his laptop open. He was a graphic designer, or had been, before the company downsized and his position became redundant. Now he freelanced when he could find work on Indeed or LinkedIn, which wasn't often enough. Moments later, his phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number popped up on the screen. "This is Dr. Constance Morrow. I hope you don't mind. I looked you up on LinkedIn and used the number there. I wanted to say thank you. What you did today mattered more than you know. If you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. I mean it." Below the message was her phone number. Walker stared at it for a long time. Then he saved the contact and went to bed, trying not to think about Monday's rent or tomorrow's overdraft fee, or the fact that he'd just given his last $10 to a stranger. 3 days later, on Sunday morning, Walker's phone rang with an unsaved number. "Mr. Webb, this is Constance Morrow. We met on Thursday at the train station." "Dr. Morrow, hi, is everything okay?" "More than okay. I have a question for you, and I need you to answer honestly. Are you employed currently?" "I need help with something, so I thought to reach out to you." Walker's hand gripped his phone tightly. "I freelance as a graphic designer." "Why do you ask?" "Because I'd like to offer you a job." Took him a second to process what he'd just heard. He thought he'd misheard her. "I don't understand." "I'm 83 years old, Mr. Webb. I was a literature professor at Northwestern for 41 years before I retired. I'm writing my memoirs, a book about teaching, about literature, about the life of the mind. But I have a problem. I can think clearly. I can compose sentences in my head. But my hands," she paused. "Arthritis. It's very severe. I can barely type anymore. Handwriting is worse. I need someone to help me get the words out of my head and onto the page. Like a ghostwriter, more like a scribe. You'd come to my apartment 3 days a week. A dictate you'd type and help me organize my thoughts visually. I know you're a designer. I looked at your website. Your work is extraordinary. I think you could help me create something beautiful, not just readable." Walker's throat was tight. "Dr. Moreau, I appreciate this, but the pay is $800 a week. Cash every Friday. No taxes, no paperwork. Just an old woman paying a young man to help her finish something important before she runs out of time. $800 a week. Walker did the math in his head. That was about $3,200 a month. More than his rent, Beverly's school fees, medication, groceries, electricity, more than everything. It was enough to breathe. When would I start? Tomorrow, 9 a.m. If that works for you, it worked. Most people would have celebrated landing an $800 a week job. He did for about 4 days. Then he found out what she was telling him and why a retired professor with arthritis needed help from a stranger instead of her own family. Monday morning, Walker dropped Beverly at school and took 2 buses to Evanston, DO. Dr. Morrow's apartment was exactly what he expected. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, worn furniture that was probably expensive in 1970. Papers everywhere, organized in systems only. She understood. She had coffee waiting. Real coffee. The kind that came from beans you ground yourself. "Thank you for coming," she said, settling into a chair by the window. Let's begin. Chapter 1. On teaching Faulkner. To students who think everything is about them, Walker typed, for 3 hours. Dr. Moreau talked. She told stories about students who'd changed her life, about books that had saved her, about the peculiar intimacy of a classroom where ideas mattered more than anything else in the world. Walker didn't just transcribe, he organized, he created visual layouts. He suggested chapter structures. And somewhere in that first session, he realized he wasn't just doing this for money. He actually enjoyed writing and felt the connection with this book. When noon arrived, Dr. Moreau insisted he stay for lunch. Soup from a can, crackers, cheese, nothing fancy. It was simple food, but she served it on real china. "Can I ask you something personal?" Dr. Moreau said. "Sure, your daughter's mother. How is she doing?" "I actually have no idea. She left when Beverly was 8. She decided she wanted a different life." Dr. Moreau was quiet for a moment. "My daughter, Claire, the one who was supposed to pick me up. Thursday, she's a corporate attorney, makes $250,000 a year, has a beautiful house in Winnetka, and she can't find 4 hours in a month to have dinner with me. She always claims she is busy. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm telling you this because I want you to know something. Wealth doesn't make people good. Poverty doesn't make people bad. Character is what you choose when the choice costs you something." She looked at him directly. "You chose to help a stranger when it cost you everything. That tells me who you are. If you're watching this and thinking about a choice you made that cost you something, hit subscribe. The stories on this channel aren't about perfect people. They're about the real ones. And what's coming next is going to test everything you just heard about character." Walker didn't know what to say to that. Friday, Dr. Moreau continued. "I'll have your first week's payment, but I want to give you something else too. Come with me." She led him to a small bedroom that had been converted into an office. In the corner sat a desktop computer, newer and better than anything Walker ever owned. "I bought this 3 years ago thinking I'd write the book myself. Never used it. The keyboard hurts my hands too much. It's yours. If you want it, take it home. Use it for your freelance work. Consider it a signing bonus." When he got home, Beverly was at Mrs. Doris's. He knocked on her door. "Walker, everything okay?" "Yes, I have got good news," he said, putting on a happy smile. "I got a job. A real job. I wanted to thank you for the food last week, and to ask if you'd be willing to watch Beverly 3 mornings a week. I can pay you now." Properly, Mrs. Doris got teary. Of course I'll watch her." For dinner that night, Walker made tacos. Rich tacos with seasoned ground beef and fresh vegetables and shredded cheese. Beverly ate 3. "Daddy, these are the best tacos ever." "Yeah, baby, they really are." For 6 weeks, Walker went to Dr. Moreau's apartment every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. They worked on the book. They talked about everything: literature, teaching, parenthood, loss, hope. She told him about her late husband, a pianist who died 15 years ago. He told her about Beverly's mother, about the particular loneliness of raising a child alone. Dr. Moreau's book was taking shape. So was their friendship. For 42 days, his life made sense. He had work, he had purpose, he had enough money to stop choosing between electricity and food. And then on day 43, everything that could go wrong did. Starting with the bathroom floor and ending with a daughter who hadn't called her mother in 6 weeks. For 6 weeks, everything was finally working. But success has a cruel way of reminding you that nothing good lasts without being tested. On a Wednesday in late October, everything changed. Walker arrived at 9 a.m. As usual, Dr. Moreau didn't answer the door. He knocked again. Still nothing. He began to panic. He called her cell phone. It rang inside the apartment, but no response. Walker tried the doorknob. Thankfully, it was unlocked. He found her on the bathroom floor. She was barely conscious. I slipped, she whispered. My hip hurts, and I can't get up. Walker immediately called 911. The ambulance came 3 minutes later. They took her to St. Francis Hospital. Walker followed in an Uber, his hands shaking the entire ride. In the emergency room, they wouldn't let him back to see her. He wasn't family. He sat in the waiting room for 3 hours before a doctor appeared. Are you here for Constance Moreau? Yes. Is she okay? She suffered a broken hip. She needs surgery. Are you family? No, I work for her. Is there someone I should call? The doctor consulted his chart. We have a daughter listed as emergency contact. Claire Moreau, Riveth. 2 messages. No response yet. Walker felt anger building in his chest. She's 83 years old and alone. Someone needs to be with her. Sir, I understand, but hospital policy, I'm staying. You're not family. Then make me family. The doctor looked at him for a long moment, then sighed. Room 314. But if her actual daughter shows up in objects, you're out. Understood, understood. Walker agreed. Dr. Moreau was asleep when Walker entered her room. She looked smaller in the hospital bed, fragile in a way she never had before. He sat in the chair by the window and waited. She woke up around 6 p.m., confused and groggy from pain medication. Walker, what are you doing here? Where else would I be? Her eyes filled with tears. You don't have to stay. Yes, I do. At 7:30 p.m., Claire Moreau finally showed up. She was exactly what Walker expected. Expensive suit, expensive bag, expensive irritation at having to be there. Who are you? She demanded when she saw Walker. Walker Webb, I work with your mother. My mother doesn't have employees. I help her with her book. I've been coming 3 days a week for 6 weeks. Claire's eyes were already red. Her book, you mean the memoir she's been threatening to write for a decade. And you're what? Her ghostwriter. I'm her scribe. How much is she paying you? That's between me and your mother. Like hell it is. Claire turned to Dr. Moreau, who was awake now and watching with an expression Walker couldn't understand. Mother, how much are you paying this man? That's none of your business. Claire, everything about your finances is my business. I'm your power of attorney. Only for medical decisions, not financial. Medical, financial, it's all connected. You can't afford to waste money on people who don't belong here. When you have medical bills, you can't pay. Doctor. Moreau's eyes now red out of anger. Get out now. Excuse me. I said get out. You show up 3 hours late. You haven't called me in 6 weeks. And now you want to lecture me about my choices? Get out of my room, mother. I said get out. Claire left, her heels clicking sharply against the linoleum. Dr. Moreau looked at Walker. I'm sorry you had to see that. I'm sorry she's like that. She wasn't always like this. She used to be kind. Then she got successful and forgot what kindness looked like. The surgery was scheduled for Friday morning. Took 4 hours. Walker sat in the waiting room, checking his phone every 5 minutes, even though he knew there wouldn't be updates that fast. Claire showed up an hour into the surgery, saw Walker, and sat on the opposite side of the room without speaking to him. When the surgeon finally appeared, both Walker and Claire stood simultaneously. The surgery went well, the surgeon said, but recovery will be lengthy, 6 to 8 weeks minimum. She need round-the-clock care initially, then gradually transition to independence. Does she have family who can help? Claire opened her mouth, then closed it. I'll help, Walker said. Sir, this is full-time care we're talking about. Bathing, dressing, medication management, and physical therapy assistance. I'll figure it out. Claire finally spoke. My mother is going to a rehabilitation facility. That's the appropriate place for someone in her condition. She hates that, Walker said. What she hates is irrelevant. It's what's medically necessary. They argued in the hallway, while Dr. Moreau was in recovery. Claire pulled out research about rehabilitation results. Walker talked about dignity and preference, and Dr. Moreau's explicit wishes. Finally, Claire played her trump card. You can't afford to take care of her. You're a freelancer making barely enough to survive. I looked you up. I know about your situation. You're in no position to provide adequate care. She wasn't wrong. On paper, he had no business taking care of an 83-year-old woman recovering from hip surgery. But life doesn't happen on paper. And what he was about to commit to would either prove he was the most selfless person in that hospital or the biggest fool of the century. And you are. When's the last time you had dinner with her? Claire didn't like that. That's not why we are here. This isn't about, it's exactly about that. She doesn't need a facility. She needs someone who actually gives a damn. And that's you. Some stranger she met 6 weeks ago. This is the moment where most people would walk away. If you want to see what happens when someone refuses to give up on the people who matter, make sure you're subscribed, because the next decision he makes will either make or destroy him. Yeah, that's me. When Dr. Moreau woke up in recovery, both Walker and Claire were waiting. I'm not going to a facility, Dr. Moreau said immediately, her voice still weak from anesthesia. Mother, you need professional care. I need Walker. Claire looked like she'd been slapped. Walker has been more family to me in 6 weeks than you've been in 6 years. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going home. Walker is going to help me, and you're going to either support that or get out of my life entirely. Those are your options. Claire left without another word. The discharge took 2 days to arrange. Walker used the time to prepare. He called Dr. Moreau's insurance and navigated the labyrinth of home healthcare approvals. He scheduled physical therapy sessions. He bought a shower chair and installed grab bars in Dr. Moreau's bathroom using YouTube tutorials and determination. When Dr. Moreau finally came home, Walker had transformed her apartment into something that could support her recovery. She cried when she saw it. How did you afford all this? I didn't. I called in favors, borrowed tools, got creative. Don't worry about it. The first week wasn't easy for both parties. Dr. Moreau couldn't do anything alone. Walker helped her dress, helped her to the bathroom, helped her manage pain that left her gasping in grey. He showed up every morning at 6 a.m. and stayed until 8 p.m. In between, he worked on freelance projects during the few hours when Dr. Moreau napped. He barely slept. He survived on coffee and stubbornness. Beverly started coming with him on weekends. At first, Walker worried it would be too much, an 11-year-old in an apartment with a recovering patient. But Dr. Moreau lit up whenever Beverly appeared. Read to me, Dr. Moreau would say, and Beverly would curl up in the chair by the bed with whatever book she brought from school. Walker would watch them together, the elderly professor and the 5th grader, both completely absorbed in the book she had brought from school. This was family. Not traditional, not legal, but real. 6 weeks into recovery, Dr. Moreau could walk with a walker. 2 weeks in, she could manage short distances without it. And somewhere in that time, they finished the book. It was late November, nearly Thanksgiving, when Dr. Moreau dictated the final paragraph of her memoir. Walker typed it, then sat back. That's it, he said. We're done. Dr. Moreau smiled. We did it. That Friday. Instead of cash in an envelope, Dr. Moreau handed Walker a letter. Read it later, she said. Not now. That night, after Beverly was busy with her sketchpad, Walker opened the letter. Dear Walker, when you helped me that day at the train station, you thought you were giving away your last $10. What you were actually doing was giving me hope. I'd gone to the clinic that morning convinced I was dying. The bills I couldn't pay, the daughter who couldn't be bothered to show up, the body that was failing me piece by piece. It all felt like evidence that my life was over in every way that mattered. Then a stranger gave me his last $10 and proved that kindness still existed in the world. You saved my life that day, not physically, though goodness knows the fall could have been much worse if you hadn't been checking on me, but spiritually. You reminded me that people still help each other, that generosity doesn't require wealth. that the measure of a person is what they do when it costs them everything. PL. I'm leaving you something in my will. My attorney will contact you when the time comes. But I wanted you to know now, while I'm still here, to tell you you are the son. I never had the family I chose. The reason I believe the world is still good despite all evidence to the contrary. Thank you for the book. Thank you for the care. Thank you for seeing me as a person instead of an obligation. With all my love, Constance. Walker cried harder than he had since the day Beverly's mother left. Dr. Moreau lived for 2 more years. They were good years. Sue regained her independence, started volunteering at the library, attended Beverly's school events like a proud grandmother, became a fixture in Walker's life in a way that felt permanent and necessary. Claire never reconciled with her mother. She sent cards on birthdays and holidays, called once a month, but never visited. Dr. Moreau grieved that quietly in moments, Walker pretended not to notice. Tore. When Dr. Moreau died in her sleep one January morning, peacefully and without pain, Walker felt like the floor had been pulled out from under him. When the attorney opened that envelope, nobody in the room was prepared for what Dr. Moreau had actually done. Not her daughter, not the lawyer, and definitely not the man who'd once given away his last $10 just to get her home safely. Death has a way of revealing what people really thought of you. And when that attorney opened the envelope and started reading, the number he said out loud made one person in that room get furious, another start crying, and a third wonder if they'd heard it wrong. The funeral wasn't loud. Claire came with some family, a handful of former colleagues, Walker, Beverly, and Mrs. Doris. At the reading of the will, Walker discovered what Dr. Moreau had left him: the apartment, fully paid off, deeded in his name. $17,000 in a savings account for Beverly's education,